All right, so I actually got a little bit of good news here for you guys because human rights lawyer Stephen Donziger has officially been allowed to walk free. So I got a good breakdown here from Common Dreams' Jake Johnson of some of the details of how this case played out. But just as a little recap here, Stephen Donziger is a human rights lawyer, and years ago he was representing indigenous people down in Ecuador in the Amazon rainforest in a lawsuit that was worth roughly $9.5 billion that was being brought against Chevron for pollution that they had been responsible for in the Amazon rainforest. And he ended up winning this lawsuit against Chevron in the Ecuadorian courts. And instead of paying the $9.5 billion that they owed these people, they instead decided to pull their assets from the country, come back to the United States, and proceed to try to smear Stephen Donziger and completely ruin his life. They ended up getting him disbarred and even locked away for almost 1,000 days. So here from Common Dreams, they say Stephen Donziger walks free after 993 days of completely unjust detention. And he says human rights lawyer Stephen Donziger walked free Monday after 993 days of detention stemming from his decades-long legal fight with Chevron, which deployed its vast resources in a campaign to destroy Donziger after he won a $9.5 billion settlement against the fossil fuel giant over its pollution in the Amazon rainforest. And he said, "It's over, just left with the release papers in hand, completely unjust that I spent even one day in this Kafkaesque situation, not looking back, onwards." So yeah, I mean, you love to see it, and I'll show you guys a video of some of the stuff that he had to say in the wake of all of this. But listen, at face value, basically what happened here is you had Chevron utilizing their disproportionate control within the U.S. judicial system and using Chevron-tied judges and Chevron-tied prosecution teams to basically run a completely unprecedented in U.S. history campaign to get Stephen Donziger thrown away for the sole reason that he ended up winning that lawsuit initially against them in Ecuador, and they didn't want to have to, number one, pay this $9.5 billion settlement, and number two, set the precedent that human rights lawyers could actually deliver some semblance of justice for indigenous people around the world who were having their lands completely destroyed by capitalist enterprises. So some of the more specific details here, they say, the legal battle began in 1993 when Donziger and other attorneys on behalf of tens of thousands of farmers and indigenous people who lived near the Ecuadorian Amazon filed a class action lawsuit against Texaco, alleging that the company contaminated the rainforest with its oil drilling operations. And Chevron, which purchased Texaco in 2001, denied the allegations, but an Ecuadorian court in 2011 ordered the US-based oil and gas corporation to pay a $9.5 billion settlement, a ruling the Ecuador Supreme Court later upheld. And claiming the settlement was fraudulently obtained with no fucking evidence whatsoever, Chevron then withdrew its assets from Ecuador, refused to pay the settlement, and launched a massive legal attack against Donziger, suing him in New York City. And in 2014, a federal judge with ties to Chevron ruled Donziger was guilty of a pattern of racketeering activity, a charge that he has denied, and conveniently, a U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan's decision was based on testimony from a witness who later admitted to lying. So it's not just a charge that he has denied, it's a charge that was based on a completely faulty premise from somebody who later admitted that they were lying about this. So it was complete bullshit from the beginning. But they continue saying when Donziger refused to comply with Kaplan's order to hand his cell phone and computer over to Chevron, arguing that the devices contained sensitive client information, yes, obviously they would, and it's completely ridiculous to suggest that a lawyer has to give up this confidential information to the corporation that he is trying to lead this charge against. But then Kaplan charged Donziger in 2019 with 6 counts of criminal contempt, and the attorney was placed under house arrest while awaiting trial. And after the Southern District of New York declined to take up the case against Donziger, Kaplan then appointed a Chevron-connected private law firm, to pursue the prosecution. This is, again, almost completely unprecedented in U.S. history. And Kaplan then chose U.S. District Judge Loretta Preska, previously a member of the Chevron-funded Federalist Society, to preside over the case. So everybody involved in this prosecution, an attempt to completely destroy Donziger's life, has direct ties to the corporation in question here. So again, just shows a small glimpse into the completely rotted nature of our criminal justice system that we have here in the United States. But they continue saying, so my prosecutor has financial links to Chevron, my judge has financial links to Chevron, the charging judge, Judge Kaplan, has investments in Chevron, and they're denying me a jury, Donziger said in an interview last year. And then last July, Prescott found Donziger guilty on all 6 counts of criminal contempt of court, a decision he slammed as an obvious travesty of justice, and Donziger was sentenced in October to 6 months in federal prison. Think about this. 6 months in federal prison for a human rights lawyer who successfully won a case against Chevron. He's getting 6 months in a federal prison for what? For refusing to turn over confidential client information to Chevron? I mean, it's just completely fucking ridiculous. And they say where he remained until December, when he was then transferred back to house arrest under a coronavirus-related early release program. And given that Donziger spent more than 2 years in detention before even receiving a trial, his sentence has been deemed the longest ever recorded for a misdemeanor charge. And human rights and environmental organizations have urged U.S. President Joe Biden to pardon Donziger, slamming his prosecution as retaliation for his work in defense of the rights of indigenous peoples in Ecuador who were victims of the Chevron Corporation's oil dumping. And then Donziger emphasized in a video posted to Twitter on Sunday that Chevron is still pursuing a civil case against him. So again, it seems like it's somewhat good news, right, that he's gotten away from these initial charges that they were leveling against him, but they're not going to relent, and they're going to continue this until and unless Joe Biden steps in and actually does something to pardon him in this case. But he did make a video where he was basically explaining where he's going to go from here, and basically did a rundown and thank you to everybody who was supporting him throughout this. So I figured that I would play this and end the video off here with his take in the wake of all of this.
Hey everybody, it's that time again. The last time I made a recording like this was October 27th of last year. It was the day I literally reported to prison for a 6-month sentence. Well, that 6-month sentence ends tomorrow. I've been in detention now a total of 992 days. Tomorrow will be day 993 when it all ends. And I want to talk to everyone tonight, the night before the end of my sentence, to say thank you to everyone. I could not have gotten through this, me and my family, my wife Laura Miller, my son Matthew, without the support of each and every one of you. I mean, it's just been amazing how much that together we've grown this campaign to hold Chevron accountable for poisoning the Amazon rainforest. I also am thinking about the people of Ecuador, the people in the forest, the 5 indigenous groups, the dozens of rural farmer communities who continue to suffer the effects of Chevron's poison every day in their daily lives, from the air they breathe to the water they drink to the food they eat. Thousands have died of cancer since this case began 28 years ago, and Chevron still pay the money it owes to the people it poisoned. And one of the things we're going to focus on once I hit the streets tomorrow and get my freedom back is making sure there are lawyers in place who can force Chevron to pay the judgment, to comply with the law per these various court orders. I also want to say that even though I'm free, I'm not completely out of the woods. Chevron maintains a civil case against me. We continue to raise funds both to protect me and my family and other lawyers from Chevron's attacks, and also to make sure our broader legal team has the resources it's going to need to make sure Chevron complies with the law and pays the judgment that it owes to the people of Ecuador. So this is a big, big day for my family. It's a big day for all of us. It's a big day for my clients in Ecuador. Tomorrow morning I go back to the halfway house, turn in my phone, and then they give me my release papers, and that's it. So we'll be reporting back tomorrow. But again, thank you so much to each and every one of you. I love you so much. This has been an extraordinary experience. Painful, yes, but much more empowering than painful. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks so much.
All right, so yeah, I mean, listen, as he said at the end of that, this fight is obviously going to continue. Number one, and honestly, most importantly, because the people in the Ecuadorian rainforest who were owed this $9.5 billion from Chevron for the destruction that they caused in the first place, they still haven't gotten that money. So number one, Chevron should be forced to pay that settlement to these indigenous populations within Ecuador. But on the other hand, he is going to be doing some other things. I'm sure that he's going to be, I think he launched a Substack, and he's going to be doing some investigative journalism, and obviously continuing in his work to try to hold multinational corporations responsible for their destruction of the planet. So I'll link all of that down in the description below if you want to go and support him and his family in the wake of all of this. So I encourage all of you guys to do that.